Evening, folks. Welcome to the Cheese Room. Come for another therapy session tonight. I think we need it after today's event. We're going to introduce the guest first. Top right-hand corner. Becky, you seem like you go to every game nowadays. How are you? Did you enjoy the weekend?
I did, thank you. We're having a bit of a northern spell. I was very fortunate enough to go to Preston. It was absolutely awesome, despite the rain and the fog and the freezing cold weather. It was really good. I felt like most Spurs fans today. Felt quite kind of glum, but luckily I kind of went to Zumba, came back, got ready for the show, went on Twitter and was like, things might be sorting themselves out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about it all.
Good news. And bottom corner, Patron's very own Jack. All right, Jack, how are you, mate?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. I appreciate you having me on. It's a bright, sunny day here in North Carolina, East Coast of the United States, and much better than when I woke up to my son's tweets about the Porro deal. So everything's looking a little bit better.
Wow, we've got some good news on that score. But before we get there, bottom right, East Midlands, Spurs, very own Craig. Craig, happy to be back, mate.
Always happy to be back with you, Gibbo, and Jack and Becky. It's going to be a great show. Started off the roller coaster that is Tottenham has been in full action today, hasn't it? And the social media meltdown of Twitter has been particularly fun to be a part of.
Yeah. So look, before we get into it, a little bit of housekeeping. We've just had the motivational speech off caller sent on the WhatsApp group. So please do smash the like button and subscribe if you're not a member. We do have some new channel members. We've got, let me just find who they are. We've got Leon from our WhatsApp group. We've got THFC Till I Die, your new members, and the mod drummer, Dan, who's also joined the Patreon. So thanks for that. And any questions, put them in there. And because you're a member, you'll get priority of us answering those questions. But tonight we'll obviously talk about Preston in the Cup. We'll talk about the Cup draw. But I think we better start with the breaking news. I've not checked my phone in a couple of minutes. I don't know if we've had have we had the here we go confirmed off Fabrizio, Becky? Is Pedro Porro a Tottenham player?
Well, it seems so, but you never know with Spurs. So I think, like most people, depending on where you are in the world, it depends how long this has been going on for you. So, I'm in England, quite close to Wales, got to school, got myself sort of sorted, had a quick look and went, oh, hello. And the Spurs ladies WhatsApp group were all like, oh, the deal's off, it's gone. And, it was bandied about whether it was Sporting had done it and whether there was admin fees. And then I think I was, like most people, kind of refreshing and trying to get the most up-to-date things. And then Alistair Gold confirmed a few bits, and then Fabrizio Romano did, and then Paul O'Keefe. And they're three people I kind of do have a bit of time for, and then thought, oh, okay. So kind of needed, like most people, to put my phone away and thought, I can't be doing with it. Carried on my normal day, went to Zumba, got home, looked on, watched the FA Cup draw, which we'll come to later on, but then went on my phone and saw that, we were saying before off air that it now says, I think we've driven him to kind of the end, really, for Fabrizio Romano, because bless him, he normally says, here we go, doesn't he? Everyone say they're the three words that people are waiting for, and that's usually it. And we had that kind of yesterday, and I had a kind of a Twitter spat with somebody on Friday to say that I did think it would go through Saturday night, Sunday morning, because he wanted to play in the FA in his cup final, in his League Cup final, and who could blame him? If we had someone who was going to go to another club and they left us the eve of a cup final, we'd be livid. So I had quite a lot of sympathy there, and I had sympathy for Spurs if that's what they did. Let him do that, and that's fine. And then to kind of read that it had all kind of collapsed this morning, I think was unfair. Again, we were talking off air. We don't know who we're supposed to believe and how much goes on, but it's just nice to see that Fabrizio Romano has even done the sort of here we go confirmed, and he's had to kind of say eventually the medical will take place tomorrow. It's been rescheduled for. He's kind of like reiterated everything that, bless him, he's already said. But yeah, it seems as certain as it can be. But we are Spurs, so
yeah. I mean, last night, when that news came through, Jack, we were all talking about what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Last night we were thinking, well, we're going to have to do like an impromptu show, and then we're all, now tomorrow will be the day. Bosh, So where are you at with this Pedro Porro deal, Jack? Are you sort of like, just get it over and done with, I've had enough?
Yeah, I think I have to revert back. I learned very early on, since I was new to this sport, 12 years ago, and having to learn the transfer system and all that sort of stuff. I quickly learned to not pay attention to anything until someone showed me a picture with a player holding up a shirt. And so I think I'm going to revert back to that with the Porro deal. When I'm glad I can look at my phone and Fabrizio add the words confirmed. Here we go. But I'd like to see him in London. I'd like to see him holding a shirt. Then I'll feel much better about the whole situation.
Yeah, but Craig, there's no fun in that, is there? No fun in that waiting for him to hold the shirt up, mate. We like all the crap before, don't we?
Oh, I mean, Jack, that's so dull. I mean, why would you do it to yourself? I absolutely had the best day today watching Twitter melt down in the way that it has. It's been absolutely exceptional. And look, my take on the deal was, I mean, let's just go back a minute, actually. I wasn't that bothered. To be honest with you, when it all said, "Oh, Porro deal's broken down," etc., I'm not going to sit here and say I cried into my cornflakes, because we've played them twice this season, and I didn't even remember him, if I was being honest. So he's not a player that I've looked at and gone, "Oh my God, this guy's a world beater. We've got to sign him at all costs. This is like the one and only chance." We're not beating the door of, Man City aren't knocking on the door, Chelsea aren't knocking on the door, Arsenal aren't knocking on the door, Liverpool aren't knocking on the door. We're the only club in for him. So I'm not sitting there going, "Oh my God, this is an unbelievable world beater." Clearly he's got potential. Clearly he's an upgrade on what we've got already. But if the deal didn't happen, I wasn't going to cry to my cornflakes. What I found particularly interesting was the immediate Twitter meltdown that ensued when it leaked, or come out from Orstein originally, that it was going off, because and straight away it was we like Levy, he's tight, Levy's this, Levy's that. And I thought it's really funny is Levy was lauded in the summer when he played hardball with Kane and Man City and refused to let him go to Man City, refused to accept the money, refused to negotiate. Oh yeah, he's the best negotiator ever. No one messes with Levy. And then when it suits, oh no, Sporting are playing hardball with us because there's a player they don't want to lose. Let's be honest, they don't want him to go. Levy, they are going to play hardball. They're not just going to roll over, let Levy tickle their belly and say, "I'll come and take him for 20 million. It's always going to be a negotiation. Becky's mentioned the fact that he was always going to play in the cup final. So it was always going to be a late on. It's not like this is something that we've purposefully dragged out, in my opinion, for the whole of the transfer window. Of course, it would have been a lot easier on everyone if we did it on the 1st of Jan. But where's the fun in that? This is so much better. We're going into deadline day. We're going to have great things to talk about in deadline day. Porro will sign. I think we're pretty much confident now, more confident than ever it's going to happen. He'll land in his private jet overnight or first thing in the morning. Everything will be great. And then it will be, why haven't we signed Skriniar? Why haven't we signed this player, that player, and God knows who else? And I can't wait. Bring on transfer deadline day.
Yeah, Becky, when I saw that this morning, I thought, I don't think that it, like it going wrong, was Levy's fault, but you could just imagine, couldn't you? You could just imagine that this deal goes tits, and then it's like go 1-0 down against City, really bad 20 minutes, and I mean they'd be at him anyway probably. But I did say, I've got to admit, I did say it's just like the chickens come home to roost with Levy. He messes other teams about so much. Now he's getting a taste of his own medicine. So what did you think?
I think also with the Danjuma business is that, I was not one of those people who were saying that, how funny to Everton. To be fair, Everton from here is one of the closest clubs to me. I know they're having a tough season at the moment, but there's quite a few similarities between Spurs and Everton. I've said there's a lot. They're building a new ground. They've always been in the shadow of their local rivals and all that sort of stuff. But I didn't like the fact that, it had come out that we'd kind of seemed to gazumped and got Danjuma. So when it kind of came out that was happening today, a few people were like, see, this is what happens in football. You get it back. And it's like, and then people were listing all the times it had happened and all these players that we were supposedly supposed to have signed that had all kind of broken down. And again, it isn't, we aren't a Levy out kind of show. We're trying to be as honest about how we see things. We don't know what goes on in these transactions. And I know it makes it look like we're saying, that the board are innocent in all of this, but I agree with Craig. When it kind of came out to say that the what's that clause thing called, the
buyout clause.
buyout clause thing had gone past before we started negotiating. That's rather strange if that is what's happened, because I've read somewhere that it had to sort it 13 days before the end of the window. And we are notoriously a team that leaves things sort to the end. We'll come on later about possible loans that are going out. And although we don't want to be a club that has to get rid of players before we can sign them in, because we should have the finances for that, I think in terms of squads and, the amount of homegrown players in the Champions League and all that sort of business, there is an element of someone has to go out before someone else comes in. But to hear that the buyout clause had kind of lapsed before we'd even started negotiating, if that's true, that's slightly strange to hear, because I've never heard that before. Yeah, I'm with Craig. It would be great if we could just get things done. I said on the show a couple of weeks ago, this sort of stuff could have been started before the World Cup, couldn't it? And during the World Cup. And Paratici is supposed to be one of these people who has, 8 or 9 players on the go. And, and I'm hoping we sign Porro. I'm the same as you. I don't remember him at the Sporting game. But the fact that he improves us as a wing back, that's great. But we still need a centre back. And, we're reading there may be people in the summer, but Conte might not be here in the summer. So it's a position we need. It was clear on Saturday it was a position that we need. So yeah, I just can't see us doing any more. I think tomorrow will all be about people going out. And we'll come on to that, because I think some of that leaves us a bit thin, really, our squad depth.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Beck, we'll come on to that in a minute. But Jack, so obviously this Porro deal looks like it's going to be done now. What are you expecting from him, mate? Obviously the bar's very low of our right wing backs, isn't it? So it's not hard to expect more. But what do you expect that this guy's going to give us? What's the extra bit that he's got over the other two, apart from quality?
Well, I'll answer that, and then I'm going to come back to something. I think Becky and Craig made some good points I want to bring up. But on the fact of Porro, I concur that I can't claim to be an expert on Portuguese football. I can tell you that kid's got 14 goal involvements in 25 games. He clearly, I've seen enough to know that he can cross a ball and find the same color shirt in the box. And so, so I mean, I don't, obviously the step up from the Portuguese league to the Premier League is a notable one, but there's been plenty of players who've made that transition very successfully. So I feel good about the quality and technical ability of that league, that this is someone who can come in and hit the ground running. And to your point, the bar is so low that I can't imagine that, unless he's just an absolute defensive liability, which I don't have a feel for, that going forward, he's going to offer something that we haven't seen all season, which is the desire and ability to take someone on and whip a ball in, as well as someone who's not afraid to shoot, because his shot volume is off the charts. So I think it's a huge upgrade, even if you're right. I don't remember him lighting it up against us, but at the same time, I think that the bar being so low, as you mentioned, the one thing I want to comment on is Craig, you said about how it's no fun not to participate in the meltdown, but for me, the Twitter world is such a great overreaction, and I really feel like Ornstein probably did himself a professional disservice the way he tweeted that out, because I actually listened to this early this morning. I'm probably the only one in this room who probably listened to the video that Alistair Gold put out, and this is 48 hours ago that he released this. And he actually said, I don't understand why everyone thinks this deal is so close to getting done, because everyone I talked to in Portugal says we're a long way to the finish line. And that's something he said 48 hours ago. So the fact that it was not done and dusted the way everyone thought it was doesn't surprise me. And, it doesn't surprise me that it left to the last minute. I just think that the fact that Arsenal's at the top of the table, Chelsea has dropped 215 million over the next over the next 47 years, and if they get the Enzo deal done, it's 320, and it's 450 since the summer. Now, granted, again, it's 47-year deals. I get that, and UEFA is going to step in probably and say, okay, we can't have 47-year deals. And I'm pretty sure that in about 3 years, they're going to look like Barcelona with a bunch of players. Because some of this, they've got 200 million committed to guys under 22 who've got about all told 30 goal involvements in their entire professional career at this point. But I figured when you see that happening and you see Arsenal at the top of the table and the quality of our football being so poor, I think the overreaction was even on steroids today. So that's the reason why I kind of dropped out. It was like, I can't Plus, I got to go to work. So I just kind of backed out of the whole Twitter thing and just didn't pay attention all day until I knew I was going to come on this show and we had something to talk about.
Yeah, and as you said, Alistair Gold, mate. I love Alistair Gold, but let's be honest, he's brilliant at pissing on your chips, Craig. When you remember when we were getting all these coaches in the summer, and it's like the Twitter feeds would be like, this is the bloke, this is who we're going to get, and then you go to him and he'd be like, no, I've not heard it, and the signings, no truth in that, and you're just like, oh, for God's sake, man. But so here he is. Look, Craig, what are you looking forward to with Pedro?
An upgrade.
Yeah,
an upgrade in what we've got now. I think as Jack said, he, in terms of every single statistic that you look at, he is far better than anything we've got. Goal involvements, forward passes, runs, every attacking stat. Certainly, he's better than what we've got now. So it's going to be good. It's a sign. It's an area of the pitch that we all accept. We needed to upgrade. We needed to do something with. And we've got that now. In theory, we know we've got that now with Porro coming in. So I'm expecting to see better things. I don't expect him to start against Man City, by the way, if he does sign. But I'm sure we'll get onto that. He's an upgrade on what we've got now, and it's a signing that we desperately needed to make if we wanted to keep this season alive. Put some faith into backing Conte and keeping that movement alive, if you like, and that narrative around backing Conte, and looking to press on and to try and do something special this season, if that's winning something and getting top four. Yeah.
Well,
if it's true, sorry, that he wants to be here, because the things I've read today about him saying things like, he always wanted to come to us, because we're reading about, like Jack said, Chelsea could have gazumped it and all this sort of thing. To hear that he wants to come is great, because I thought you could see that in Danjuma on Saturday. He looks like he's really pleased to be here as well. And to come on in that pouring down rain, with the game finished, really, and to score, he scored more goals already than half of our team. He really looked like he wanted to be there. And I thought, if it is true that Porro wants to be there, then that's another side. Kulusevski is very happy to be here. Bentancur is very happy to be here. It only kind of seems to be sort of Spence and Bissouma that sort of have that sort of body language, and not maybe Doherty to some extent, maybe Sessegnon as well, actually, don't necessarily look totally comfortable. But it's about building the people that we're bringing in as well, the age of the people. And if they do want to be for Spurs, then that's a real positive as well, I think, because there's no point dragging them through all this for them to not enjoy being here and then, move on like Gil.
Yeah, like 23, you're right. Hill didn't want to be here. Let's hope, like you say, Porro wants to be here. Let's hope some of this enthusiasm rubs off on our manager, and he might want to be there. But I've got a few little stats here. I'm not a stat man, but I got this the other day. So this is comparing Emerson, Doherty, and Porro. So crosses per 90. Emerson 3. I don't know if these are probably attempt. They might class the crosses when he kicks it towards the goal. So they've got crosses per 90, Emerson 3, Doherty 2.43, Porro 8.99. XGA, which I'm going to say is expected goals, assists, possibly. Yeah. Emerson 0.02, Doherty 0.04, and Porro 0.41. Then key passes, Emerson 0.41, Doherty 0.81, Porro 2.86. So a lot better. Shots per 90, Emerson 0.99, Doherty 1.35, Porro 2.94. So basically, in attacking stats, it's saying that he is head and shoulders above the other two piles of whatever you want to call them. But decent stats, I think. Do you guys? Anyone?
Yeah.
Beck?
Emerson will play at City though, because he was
guaranteed.
In the reverse fixture, as I like to refer to it, he was one of the better players by a mile. So he deserves really to be in that sense, unless Conte sees something in the next 6 days or whatever it is.
I don't think, Beck, that Conte is going to be the type of guy who turns around and says attack's the best form of defence, is it? Do you know what I mean? He's not going to go, if we've got the ball up there and we're attacking them, they can't attack us. So I think you're right, Emerson. plays next game.
Yeah, against City, I would think that would make sense.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about this, it does give you, assuming that Emerson becomes number 2, right? And as Seb's saying, time for Dier to go. I don't know if there's anywhere you can.
I'm all over that. I'm all over that. Get him gone.
But I mean, I will tell you that you now have set yourself up for if you can go ahead and get a lead. If you're now going to have a real threat from right wing back, you've now got a little bit more depth we can debate at forward line, and maybe Sonny comes back in form and you're actually scoring first. The ability to play Porro for 65, 70 minutes, and then you bring in Emerson and other people help lock it down. It does give you a little bit more, like, again, what does the manager want? I want to be able to change the game from the bench. That doesn't always necessarily mean go get a goal. It has been released recently because we're always chasing the game. But what would be nice is we're actually up and we now have people we can bring in to help solidify the back and lock it down.
Yeah. Craig, I mean,
so now Emerson wants to be here. Talk about somebody who wants to be here. Emerson wants to be here.
To be fair, Emerson wants to be here, doesn't he? So you've got like, who do you, with Porro coming in, who do you see being the 2? Because obviously we're looking at Spence going out. We'll get into that later. But do you think it's either Emerson or Porro? And do you think that leaves sort of Doherty out in the cold? Hopefully.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah. I think both need to go in our ideal world. We don't want Emerson. We don't long term. But I think you've got to think about what is Conte most likely to, and
what will the new manager play? He might play a back 4.
Well, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, this is the other thing we don't know is what happens in the summer. But I do think for Conte, if knowing Conte, it will be Porro and Emerson because they give you different things, don't they? And like I say, you have those games where he's going to want Emerson to perhaps be a little bit more defensive and he'll come in. So, but, I don't see much interest in either of them anyway, whoever was to go out of that position. So, and don't forget, as it stands, we've still got Spence. That's another one that needs to be sorted one way or the other. So really, with Porro coming in, we've got to be looking at 2 outs in that position, you would like to think, or, certainly 1 as a minimum.
Well, we'll come on to it later, but I think the talk is of Spence going on loan, but there is no buy option.
The other thing about Doherty, though, is that he can play on the left, can't he? So say, I don't know, Sessegnon pulled a hamstring or went down to the under-21s or something. Doherty could play on the left-hand side. Because, I know we haven't talked about Saturday yet, but having Perisic up front and then Sessegnon on one side and Doherty on the other. And then later on, Perisic goes back to right back. Wing
Did
back
Emerson go on the left back?
No,
did Emerson do a little bit on the left for some reason?
For like 5 minutes. For like 5 minutes until they switched.
He was on that side when he came on.
Yeah.
But so Sessegnon. It was funny. Sessegnon was literally about to take a throw in. He's getting like all ready for his drying the ball and everything, and then just dropped on the floor when he saw his number come up. Well, I think the other thing you've got to remember is Doherty is really, really big mates with Kane, like really big mates with Kane. So if Kane has any influence in the team, I think Doherty's got more chance of being here than Sessegnon. Sessegnon, obviously he's got the speed up front and everything, but if you're doing stats for him, I know we're talking about a left wing back now, he can't cross it either. And we're going back to the same thing about he's not got the confidence to take anybody on. And I was with Jo on Saturday and she was like, oh, I really don't rate Perisic. And I was like, why? He's 10 times the player Sessegnon is. Sessegnon just still looks like someone who's playing in the school team. Bless him.
Well, so if we want to get onto that, let's get on to Saturday's game. We've talked a bit about Porro. We'll come on to transfers again, what we think will happen. But obviously, Preston away in the cup. We'll come to Becky first because she was there. And then we'll go down. I know you just spoke, Beck. But look, this is the team. When the team come out, Beck, and you're up there in the lashing down with rain in the cold, what were you thinking when you see that team?
Yeah, so for me, it's only an hour away and it was great. I left here and it wasn't raining. I got there and it was like ice, like sideways ice and fog and everything. Anyway, it's a nice little ground, Preston, really nice little ground. So I kind of assumed Forster would be playing. I think I'd much kind of thought that. To see Sanchez playing in the middle, I know he's done it before, and to be captain as well. And a few
Captain
people
Sanchez.
reading, why wasn't Son captain and things like this? Even my Jack was like, he's captain for South Korea. Sessegnon and Doherty, we've seen that sort of thing before. And then, like I said, there was a game, wasn't there? I can't remember which one, but Perisic played up front. So we have seen that before, Kulusevski and so on. And then, Bentancur and Bissouma. I thought Bissouma, I know he did well for the second goal, wasn't it? Yeah, I think Bissouma looked all right. I was quite impressed with Bissouma. I then went that fact because Preston was very intermittent for Signal. So when I could kind of pick Signal up, everyone was just tweeting about the defence, going, "Oh my God, this." He could have changed formation and he could have tried a few things up and he didn't. How is the defence going to be? And I think Tanganga kind of grew in the game a bit, but he again looked quite nervy. And there was that one, wasn't it, where he bounced. Preston were woeful. They were.
Yeah.
I never at any point did I worry that there was going to come something from them. But there was this one, wasn't it, where it kind of bounced over and he kind of flicked it and then ended up at Forster. He just looked nervous. But you get that when you don't have a run of games. So, but it was an FA Cup Championship kind of lineup, which is I kind of expected, really.
Yeah, I mean, whatever we talk about here tonight, you can always offset it by they were absolutely toilet, Preston. They were awful. They had a bit. They pushed a little bit, but they were poor. So, like Craig, I'll come to you. I'm going to try not to talk too much about the team lineup in the first half because I found it utterly depressing. So that lineup comes up. That back five, I said to someone, I think on Patreon, that back five wouldn't look out of place in a top championship team. What did you think to it? Well,
I think you've answered your own question, though. It wouldn't look out of place in a top championship team. We were playing a championship team. We put a team out which was capable of doing the job that we had to do on the day, as was proved by the end result. So, I didn't look at it and go, I'd rather not see Taylor and Sanchez, and I'd rather see Romero. But we've got a squad, and we have to use that squad. And if you're not going to use that squad in games like this, and if Tanganga, Sanchez, Forster, Doherty, Bissouma, etc., these players that aren't perhaps getting as many minutes in the Premier League team can't come in against that opposition and do what they did, then we've got issues in terms of our squad depth. As it happens, I think all of those players, bar one or two, rusty mistakes, if you like, they did the job. We kept a clean sheet. I don't know what more you want, Gibbo.
Well, you're so sensible, Craig. Jack, what did you think about that lineup when it came out, mate?
Not surprising at all to me. I mean, I take that back. I was a little surprised that he rotated all three in the back. You would have thought maybe you keep somebody in there for cohesiveness and that sort of stuff. So rotating all three actually did surprise me. I didn't buy the line that I saw a lot of people of, this is Conte's way of taking a shot at the board. This is the way he's delivered a message to the board. He's deliberately tanking this game so that, he either gets himself fired or he gets, but I don't buy any of that crap. I don't buy any of that crap. I think that's just people popping off who have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
And when you've got 5 subs as well, if, there's changes that can be made, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that from the way the game played out, clearly, if anyone paid attention to Preston, it's not only are they just an average team in the championship, they're an average team who can't score in the championship. Yeah. So it makes entire sense. Now, granted, I will say over the last 3 or 4 managers, when we rotate, you think, okay, we ought to be able to do a job against insert Europa League, Europa Conference League, lower division team here, right? I don't care who you want to start. And how many times have we had to bring on Son, Kane, et cetera, to rescue the game? So I recognize that
very often
triggered. Yeah, I can see why people are like, hey, this is the best chance we've got for a trophy. Why is he playing such a weak lineup, exposing ourselves? I get how people would be triggered. But at least to Craig's point, the team came out, wasn't impressive, but Preston sat with all 11 inside their 35 yards from goal, and it takes time to figure out how you're going to break that down. I don't care who you are. I've watched City even struggle with lower league teams that put everyone in the box every once in a while. So it takes a little while. Unfortunately, you had what happened, what you needed to have happen, is somebody actually can take a shot from outside the 18 and move that defense around. And Sonny was on it for a day, finally. So that's fantastic. And so it actually, to the point, is that the result came out as 3-0, and I don't see what everyone got so upset about.
Yeah, well,
I think there was a great debate I saw on Friday: is go in strong and then ease off. And there is that.
The
but
then,
sure. But we'd heard that Kane was ill in the week, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
And when I arrived, it was ever so odd. Those of you that go to the games, or you see kind of the play beforehand, Spurs are very much the team trains over here and the subs train over there. And I hadn't had any drinks. I wasn't drinking. I was driving. And I stood there and I was like, oh yeah, Kane's over there, and Skipp's over there, and Dier's over there. And it was odd seeing Kane. It's like with the Leicester game when Sonny was warming up on the wrong side with the subs. It was all a bit strange. But literally, Kane was like in a balaclava thing up to here, and his hat was like here, and there was no way he was coming on unless we were 1-0 down. But yeah, so it's going in strong, yes. But I'd heard, as I was kind of fairly certain Richarlison hadn't travelled, because at the time that he was tweeting pictures of him asking for Moura's shirt on Friday was the I don't know if you've seen this tweet. The MP for Blackpool is a Spurs season ticket holder. Now this really puzzled me, because he tweeted a picture of the jet and the bus at the same time that Richarlison was showing his placard to ask for Moura's shirt. And I went, maybe that's some Preston Blackpool banter. And he's like saying, because it puts something like, please win tomorrow or something. And I thought, he's a Blackpool supporter and he's asking us to beat Preston. And then I went into it and it said, Blackpool MP, Spurs season ticket holder. This is a little bit of a strange one. But so he tweeted the picture that the bus was there. The bus, that I might add, drove from London to meet the jet, which is, and I've heard other teams have done the same thing, but how strange. The players get a jet, somebody drives the bus up to meet them from London. What the hell's that about? Anyway,
I mean, it's quite a common thing, isn't it? And Tottenham do it for all the away games where they fly. It happens to every single one.
So we saw the bus arrive and Richarlison didn't get off it, so we knew Richarlison hadn't travelled. It confirmed that he hadn't. But so you either go in strong and you get the game won, or you ride out the first half, which is pretty much what we did, and then pure class in the second half.
So in my notes now, I have to admit I've put a turgid first half, very little to get excited about. Spurs appeared comfortable, but just don't seem to move the ball very quick. Sessegnon struggled. But I mean, I'll come to you guys what you thought of the first half, and everybody can say at the end we won 3-0. But those first halves kill me. Watching Spurs play like that absolutely kills me. There's times when you can see a ball, in my opinion, like an Ericsson or a quality player like that would just turn and on the half turn first time to hit the runner. But we sort of look at it, get it under and think, we'll just play it backwards or sideways. So my take on the first half, well, my son literally at 20 minutes said, I'm going around my friends, Dad, I'm not watching this anymore. I can't watch it. But obviously he's a bit like me. And I think he probably ended up watching it round there, but just, mucking about with his mates. And half time, the patron must have been bored with me. I was moaning about it. I said, I'm going to put the bins out. This is terrible. But obviously we got the job done. So Jack, what was your take on that first half, mate?
No,
it bored me to tears.
You're not wrong. It was boring. There was no entertainment value in that first half. The question I want to ask is, whose fault is that? Because I would suggest, even when Ericsson was playing, when we ran up against a team that put 11 people in 35 yards of space, we still had a lot of trouble unlocking those. That's been a problem with this team. I'm not saying it's an excuse, but it has been a problem for this team as long as I've been watching almost. And it is a problem when you have an organized team that's going to do that. Yes, the ball didn't move fast enough, but it requires you to have a different approach to it, and that is shooting from the outside to bring those center backs up, bring those midfielders up. You've got to have that threat, and if you don't have that threat, then they're just going to sit there and just let you pass it around the outside of their defense all game long. So fortunately, we found that result. But I agree with you; it was a horrible watch. I'm just not sure I'm ready to say, well, that that necessarily is a Conte problem, because that's been a problem we've had for a long, long time. And sometimes it just takes a while. Plenty of these games against lower league teams, you see the team, it takes a 0-0 half, and eventually they wear down. They're not as fit. They've been chasing the ball for 60 minutes, and all of a sudden the goals start to flow. So you just got to be patient a little bit. It's not as much fun as when it's an open-ended end game. I don't know if you watched that Fulham Sunderland game, but both teams were completely expansive, going end to end the entire game. But that's not the way Preston was going to play. They weren't going to come at us. They were going to come out. They were going to sit in their hole the entire time until you got a goal up. And once you got the goal up, then the spaces start to open and everyone has a little bit more time and those through balls or balls to the wing are open and it happens. So I was fine with the first half just because Davison Sanchez didn't do anything stupid. Tanganga didn't do anything stupid.
No, Craig, you're gonna be like really, really sensible as well, and you say, "What's wrong with you? We kept hold of the ball, we didn't concede, we didn't score it." Yeah,
I mean, we did keep hold of the ball.
Yeah,
we did keep hold
right.
of the ball. We had large possession, but as Jack said, they were camped in their half. I think it's a funny old game because they're not gonna play into our hands. They're not gonna go all gung ho on us and attack us and when we've got players that we've got up top, they're just not going to do it. And interestingly, I was watching the Derby West Ham game before we came on air tonight. At half time, the pundits were criticising Derby, saying, it's all well and good that they're trying to play football, but it's they should probably sit back a little, be a little bit less expansive, and fill the gaps and make it more difficult for West Ham. These teams can't win. So but in the going back to the game. They did the right thing by sitting back in their box, making it difficult for us to break down because they would know, because as Jack said, this isn't a Conte problem. It's not a Mourinho problem. It goes back to Pete Poch problem. When we were faced about teams, we sat in a low block, we always struggled to break them down. Always. How many games, I've said this before on the channel, how many games have we sat there frustrated that we've ended up winning 1-0 with 70% possession of the ball? Plenty of games, I can tell you. So but
or
going back to
1-0.
the game, or lose 1-0 exactly. We talked about that before on the channel as well. So I mean, listen, it was turgid. I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't turgid. It wasn't attractive football, but what would have been turgid, really, really turgid, Gibbo, is going in 1-0 down. That would have been completely turgid.
I think it would have took some doing to go 1-0 down against that lot.
Well,
I think that because I think the way you beat you do have a low block, but I think if you have people who want to get on the ball and run it, when Sonny, Son will come onto him, and I know Becky's probably desperate to get on about Sonny back on the score sheet, but when he drops and he gets on the ball and he beats a couple of players, people have to go out to him, and then when people come out to him, they're moving out of position, and if other people are running into those spaces, that's how you beat low blocks. Yeah. You have to make those. I don't know if sacrifices are the right word, but you have to be brave and you have to be a little bit brave. I mean, it doesn't matter now because we kept hold of the ball and passed it around and didn't really up the tempo, and it worked in our favour. But that's what you have to do.
But to be fair, though, Gibbo, they tried to do some of that stuff you've just talked about. It just didn't work. It didn't pay off.
We don't have players good enough.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Sessegnon and Doctor on the right couldn't beat a man and get a ball in behind the defense. So, I mean, that's to your point, Gibbo. If you have higher quality players in those crucial positions who take a guy on, that's how you get behind the low block is you beat your man. And we didn't have anyone
create space.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm with you.
Yeah. So I think. Do we want to talk about anything else in the first half, anybody, or can we get on to the good stuff? Do you want to get on to the good stuff, Beck? Second half?
I just want to pick up in the chat. There's a guy in the chat, Kevin, who's asked a question, and I think it's
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's only because he keeps coming back on it. Why are other Spurs channels calling you, as in Cheese Room, as a paid mouthpiece of Levy? They're saying you're trying to brainwash fans to remain unambitious, and docile. Just wanted to get your thought on that, Gibbo.
Why am I getting paid by Levy?
Yeah. And why are we encouraging fans to be unambitious and docile?
Well, I think what I've pretty much been saying about the football and stuff there isn't encouraging fans to be
exactly. Yeah.
And
well, I have a point for that, which is
go on.
Kevin, the people out there are privy to our internal discussions as a large group. I mean, the Cheese Room has about 120 patrons, and there's a WhatsApp group of about another 30 or 40. And I'd say it's pretty much at least 60-40 Enic out to Enic in at this point. I can tell you that we just don't feel the need to come on here and do that whole we're just not into getting likes and views just to stir people up because it doesn't do any good. There are plenty other channels, plenty other outlets. If you want to hear that whole debate about how terrible the management is, man, have at it. But it doesn't serve.
It's not usually a debate, is it? What you're saying there is those channels don't have a debate. It's very, very one-sided.
Yeah.
One thing we would do is we do try and see it from both sides. So there is a balanced argument on here. That's what the Enic outers don't like. They don't like the fact that we don't criticise them all the time.
And I think Beck, actually, at the moment, we've just been talking about the game, so he wasn't involved in the lineup or with the tactics. So that's why I didn't bring. Yeah. That's why I didn't bring him up. And I think we brought him up when we spoke about Porro before, and I sort of said, all the chickens have come home to roost with him, leaving him till the last day. Bit tongue in cheek, but yeah. So basically,
I wish we were getting paid.
Yeah, I wish we were getting paid from them, and then I wouldn't mind.
Definitely not.
But we're not, so we'll just carry on as we were.
Right.
So
carry on, Gibbo.
Yeah, I hope I've answered the question good enough. Becky, second half, more impetus, up the tempo, which is what we needed to do, and then a piece of quality puts us 1-0 up. I'll let you tell us what you saw.
Well, I think we had 3 shots on target in the first half. 2 of them were Son and one of them was Kulusevski. And, none of them were going to break the goal. But they, you could see that, with Kane not playing, Son had to step up. There's no getting away from it. But yeah, the first one was lovely because I've watched it back because I'm fortunate enough that it was so close. I got back about 9:30 and I went straight upstairs. And rather than watching the highlights on Match of the Day, I just watched the whole second half back again. And then I've watched it in different versions and different, channels. And they all say, Sonny wants the ball, Sonny wants it. Or they can see the kind of way he kind of pulls away and then Tanganga kind of passes it to him. And I had such a perfect view of the kind of way he kind of curled it in. You could see he was going to go that corner with his left foot. It was just fantastic. And it's, we haven't talked about the fans yet. Once they were absolutely, I am actually one of them, superb. Absolutely. Now, I know it came across on TV and the Daily Mail interview, I think it was the Daily Mail, wasn't it? Was it Daily Mail? Was it The Guardian on Friday? The songs were quite pointed from before kickoff, but the fans were singing throughout constantly, and it was pockets of different singing as well that you could hear, and you were like echoing. It was just amazing. The atmosphere was amazing. And when Sonny scores, straight away it's nice one, Sonny. And he sort of does a bit like Leicester, where he sort of stands, and then all of the players just kind of jump on him, and then he does his usual things. But he was waving and he was proper, bigging up, because they could all tell that, because it came across on TV. It was just amazing. And there were Enic out shouts, and there were Antonio songs as well. It was, trying to do as much as possible, get behind the team. It's about the team that's there, and although we can discuss all night about who played and who shouldn't have played, but it was about getting behind the team, and they did that from before kickoff. And we were letting, even when the bus arrived, and we were letting it happen for, it was just constant. So that was amazing. But it was great. Fed, if anyone here is from Preston or was a Preston fan, they were brilliant as well. And I thought there was a really good kind of banter between the two teams, and they had songs that had similar tunes to us, and then we would out-sing them, and they had a drum, and we would sort of sing along to the drum. So it was a really, really good atmosphere. Like I said, the result was never in doubt, which helps with atmosphere. Don't get me wrong, we're 1-0 down after 5 minutes on Sunday. It'll be a different atmosphere. So that helped. But yeah, that was the first goal. Second goal, Perisic, a fantastic little flick from Perisic that then Son, I was thinking again, was going to hit the same corner. Left foot hits a different corner. And, I saw someone tweet yesterday, something like Sonny's both-footed, and he spent all season falling over both of them, but he's still the best scorer with his non-foot. I still think he's left-footed, but if he's not left-footed, they were just fantastic. And it really kind of calmed everyone down. You said before about the defence being a little bit kind of rusty, and it just made the grade. You see Preston's heads drop. There were substitutions that they were going to make, and then Conte brings Skipp on and makes it was just. They were just fantastic goals that Son needed to have. And he said in interviews afterwards, he needed it for his confidence, and he needed to step up, and he did, and all of that. Brilliant. But yeah, it was just fantastic.
Yeah, Beth, the fans were brilliant away at Fulham the other night, weren't they? And, that they were...
And Palace.
Not only, they did their bit of vented their frustration, how they felt towards the board, and they also supported the team as well. Like, they got it just right, didn't they? So, it wasn't all like a doom and gloom. Are you willing to comment? Did you sing up for "We Want Levy Out" or no comment from you? Go on,
I can't
Beth.
remember. I may not have done. It was more the Sol Campbell ones because we were with kids as well. So you're kind of like, what they doing, what they singing, and it's like, oh, don't worry, but don't sing that one, don't say that one, and don't repeat that word. And it was more about that, really.
Yeah. I think the Sol Campbell debate's one for another night. But Jack, second half we come out a little bit more like what I want to see. Pace was upped. And like Becky just said, that goal from Son was fantastic, wasn't it? When you look at it from behind, it was actually outside the post at one point. Like, and loads of people have said it before we've come on tonight, but no keeper's stopping that, are they? Doesn't matter how bad Preston were. That is just top quality. Yeah,
and the Son and the season that during lockdown that Sonny did a lot of those. I can remember the one against Arsenal at home where we had 4,000 fans in the stadium and that sort of stuff. And there's so many examples that you can use for Sonny particularly, and others true, but where that's what it requires to unlock a game. You have to have players that have the skill and the technical ability to hit that shot because it can't be defended, because you're not going to step out to him 25, 28 yards from goal and challenge him close because he's going to go by you. So you're going to give him the space to push it to one side and then let it rip. And if you hit it, there's, as you said, there is nothing anyone can do about it. And so now you're down 1-0 in an elimination game. So you have no choice but to now we got to step out even further. Now we got to press a little bit higher and hope we can nick a ball and get in on that back line, because clearly that would be the weakness of the team still at that point. So, but it didn't happen. And that's what changes those games. It's if you don't have, like you're saying, someone who can get in behind to the end line and cross it back behind the defense, which we didn't have and still don't unless Porro is actually signed, then, it's going to be a problem. And we're going to need Sonny to be able to do that. We're going to need players who can step up and hit that shot. Otherwise, a low block will just continually frustrate you, Gibbo, to no end, because you're going to see that ball go from this side to this side to this side to this side to this side. I
won't, mate. I'll go and do different housework around the house. I'll go and do something different around the house.
The thing that makes me laugh is that is pretty much what Winks used to do his entire Spurs career, and now he's left, and we play like we played when Winks was here. That always makes me
Winks.
I said this is not a recent phenomenon.
Becky, don't do this to me. I'm getting over it. But great to see Sonny back playing like that, wasn't it? Do you think it benefited him playing up top, sort of not having the restraints of playing those roles, sort of like Conte? If you play out wide, you've still got to do a little bit of defensive work, haven't you? But looked as though Sonny up front had a little bit more freedom.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's fair. He did a fair bit of work going backwards as well, though. I saw him tracking back and certainly working hard for the team. But I think
he's got license. He had a license to.
He does, yeah. I think with Sonny, when you need him to, he always steps up. And I think he had to step up. There was no one else on that pitch in terms of attacking threat that was going to do the job, and that's what you get with Sonny. He's done it so many times in his past, and I think some of the calls on. I've been seeing on social media and everything else around Sonny should be dropped or Sonny should be sold. It's just ludicrous. And the game on the cup game at the weekend proved why Sonny has to be in our starting lineup every single week, because he does things like that. He just does. And especially when Kane isn't there, because he stepped up and he's, the two finishes, particularly the first one, was just outstanding. So yeah, over the moon for Sonny, and just hope he goes on for a run now for the second half of the season and bangs in another 15 goals between now and then.
Yeah, so Son polished them off, didn't he? The second goal killed them. I don't think they had much. Like I said, they were poor. I thought they were really poor. Even when they sort of like all they really had was played a couple of little bits of nice football, but there weren't anything special about them. And then we got to see the new man, Beck, Danjuma, come on the pitch.
So then
I think he had about 20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. He had a change of kind of shuffling everybody around a bit.
Yeah.
So Perisic went back to being
left wing back, didn't he?
Going this way, so left wing back, and then so then Emerson was on that side, and then Skipp was in the middle. Who I thought a side point, Skipp. I thought he looked a lot more assured this week, a lot more confident. Yeah. He was taking players on. He wasn't losing it as much. Don't get me wrong, it's Championship. But I thought, and people say we could argue that's his level because he played at Norwich. But I just think he looked a little bit more kind of confident. And then Danjuma came on. He there was one chance before I've seen back on, I've watched it back, and I remember at the time where there was I can't remember the players, forgive me, but it was kind of maybe Kulusevski, Son, Perisic, and there was all these sort of flickies, and it was all nearly, and then you could see that there was this intent that he'd been put on to go up top, which is strange when we don't really send any crosses to him. But the goal, it was very strong from Bissouma. So I said earlier on, I thought Bissouma had a good game. He was the player that we saw that for that goal, the player we thought we'd purchased. He was very strong. He got battle through, passed it to Hill. Hill's come on. He then passed it to Kulusevski, and Kulusevski had a fairly quiet game. Again, maybe he's building himself into match fitness. He takes the player on, the cross comes in. And I was in a perfect place for this. And I thought that Danjuma meant to put it in the corner that he put it. But when you kind of watch the replay back, it kind of sort of comes off that side of his foot, doesn't it, and goes in the other way. Yeah. But yeah, he went straight over to the fans, properly celebrating, did his little snake thing, but then was like, gist, and you could tell he was so delighted. And I was going to Maisie going, "Oh, you've seen him score, but he scored in his debut as well," and trying to kind of say the significance of that was brilliant. And like I said, he's level with half of our team on scores now because he scored. It was great, brilliant.
Yeah. So Jack, what I liked about Danjuma, obviously he scored, but he got on and he was direct. And there was the one time I think he got the ball, beat a man, laid it into someone, carried on running, and Kulusevski tried to play him in, and it just didn't come off. It was the right pass, but he just couldn't bring it across himself, and the defender just got there, and he was so angry. And like Shearer was saying, he's getting wound up because the ball's not coming to him quick enough. I love that. I want somebody who's like, I want the ball, I'm in space, pass it to me. Let's get on the front foot. Were you impressed with him? I know it was only 20 minutes against a pretty poor team, but did you like what you saw?
Yeah, I think what I like the most about is there was no hesitation, like you're saying. He didn't seem, the moment wasn't too big. He wasn't taken back by he's played in big games. This guy's played a deep run in the Champions League. So there's no reason he shouldn't come in and feel perfectly natural in this situation. He's playing a championship team and he should be smelling goal, right? He's come on and then and what else? And so, yes, I like his attitude, I guess, and the way he carried himself. Some people say, with we'll get to this, but if Bryan's on his way, he is on his way out, then we haven't really deepened the squad. But I would argue that we have if Conte's going to play him. I mean, I never had a problem with Bryan other than the fact that he got blown off the ball a couple times every time he played. But I loved his effort. I loved his work rate. I loved his technical skill. But if we've got someone who can bring that sort of of flair to the game, as well as being a big lad who will body up a defender and go in, and he also had one instance, a pretty good hold-up play, which we've been missing outside of Kane. So if we could bring in someone who actually can hold the ball up as well as take a man on, I'd say that's a good get. And again, to talk about a low risk deal, I mean, 6 months in, he does nothing, and either Conte or the new manager doesn't like him, and he goes back out. If you like him a lot, then maybe that bald guy will plop down some money and bring him into the squad. So we'll just have to see.
There's also Lo Celso, isn't there? Lo Celso's at Villarreal, so whether that becomes part of the kind of bargaining later on, who knows?
Could do.
Yeah, good point.
Could do. Craig, Danjuma, impressed with what you saw, mate?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it was 20 minutes against a poor side, but I think what he did with intent and real attacking intent, and the goal was a scuff, but he was at the end of it, and his attempt, he tried to do what he did. It was good. I was really impressed. I like, in fact, he's got pace. He's going to bring something different to our side, and he's willing to take that man on. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah. I just have a theory, by the way, about Gil going tonight on loan, because I think it still leaves us a little bit light. But I sort of forget that Moura has just made his return in for the under-21. So I think he will probably end up being that person that takes that bench space if it's available. I did say, I have claimed several times that I think he's played his last game for Spurs, and that may still be true. But with Gil going, we are light again in that attacking option. So it's got to be because either there's someone else coming in, or Moira is going to fill that space where Moira hasn't been available all season.
Well, because we'll get onto that, Craig, when we do, because I've got some points on that as well, mate. But obviously, comfortable 3-0 win in the end, guys. Do we think? And somebody's put in the comments, it's about time we won the FA Cup. So tonight we go and get drawn away against Wrexham or Sheffield United, which is a fantastic draw for us, really. Because is it the quarterfinals after this round? So what?
Yes,
are you
sir.
happy with that, Beck? Fancy going to either of those?
Yeah, and it's a midweek game, the next set of fixtures. So
I know
people. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
It was last year was the Middlesbrough away game that me and Joe went to. The
God.
first game we met at when I got on TV. Yeah, we won't talk about that game. Yeah, so it's a midweek game. So obviously, if you're down in London, you want a home game. And to be fair, I think Wrexham fans probably would have wanted to have the away fixture, but never mind. 17 miles from my house to Wrexham. I've had about 8 people message me tonight. All the kids were talking about it today because they've watched it yesterday, and the whole Ryan Reynolds business. So yeah, it's it could have been a lot worse. The draw really is quite poor. United are at home, but there's no real kind of nice. There's not really sort of tasty sort of fixtures really that have been kind of drawn out. But yeah, I watched the draw with Jack, and you people have seen this. I've tweeted it already. Jack had the cat on him. And then obviously Alex, if you didn't see it, Alex Scott was drawing the home teams, and she drew out Wrexham and Sheffield United. And I was like, oh. And Jenna's picked out the away team, and he knew that he'd got us. He knew we were ball number 1. And he kind of looks over at Chappers, and I went, oh my God, we've got Wrexham away. And the cat just jumped off Jack and scratched him. But yeah, then I had all these messages and people going, oh my God, it's so close for you, and what a great fixture. And But yeah, obviously, I think either of those, Sheffield United is a bigger capacity, so there'll be more away tickets. But Wrexham it's the kind of the romantic tie, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, Craig, I'll probably say Wrexham. That was their chance. So the likelihood is it will be Sheffield United, but still a good tie, isn't it, to get us into that quarterfinal? Because when you get to the quarterfinals, you're more than likely going to meet the big teams then. So we'll have done well with some reasonable draws like this one. And so you've got to go there, get the job done, get into the next round, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but the FA Cup, the teams left in it now, it's opening itself up as a real good opportunity for us to go deep into this cup competition. But yeah, I mean, I would love it to be Wrexham just for the romantic bit of it being Wrexham. And my wife has a real thing for Ryan Reynolds, so if it is Wrexham, I'll probably have to convince her to go just so she can get a glimpse.
Half the world has. Being from Shrewsbury as well, I was saying I'm from Shrewsbury, so I'm kind of, it's built in me to not like Wrexham. So yesterday I was making lunch, I was in the kitchen, I had the radio on, and they were talking, and they were at Wrexham, they were talking to all these supporters, and one guy went, I think Wrexham is now everybody's second team. And I kind of turned around and went, no, not everybody. But talking to people today, they're like, oh, isn't it so wonderful that, it was like a movie script, the game yesterday, how they kind of equalised at the end. And it's like, oh, God, we've got if they get through a week on Tuesday, you've got, that will just continue, won't it? And to be fair, I do like, if we're talking about Enic, I like the way Ryan Reynolds has come in, and the other guy, I can't pronounce his name. They really want to do well for the team, and and being so close to Wrexham. And like I said, my head is a season ticket holder, so I know lots about Wrexham and how they're kind of doing, and they do need to get out of the conference, and they want to be in the league again. But the owners, Ryan Reynolds, they really look like they want to do the right thing for the club, and they've kind of learned about history, and they want to do the right thing, and they've got some really quality players. What did for them yesterday is their centre halves all got injured early on, didn't they? Because they were outscoring everyone by absolute miles. I think they've conceded 5, I think, twice this season, and gone on to win both games. And, they're the highest scorers in Britain. So, yes, I think I agree with Gibbo. I think yesterday probably was their chance. They were at home. But it's not to say they can, cheeky 1-0 away next week.
Yeah. I mean, either way, like you say, is it's a great draw. And it's, Sheffield United would be my preference just because it's 45 minutes an hour up the road from me. So, it would be amazing time. But yeah, we should we should be winning that. We should be moving on to the next round, get a favourable draw in that next round as well. Then potentially we're
cooking.
Yeah.
Jack, do you know a lot about Wrexham? Have you watched the doc? Or Sheffield? What do you think is going to happen here?
Yeah, I've watched the whole doc. I was very disappointed for them to lose. That was appointment television for me. I had set aside the time. My wife and I watched it. She's watched the whole doc. We were disappointed with the result, although to my credit, I called it in our Patreon prediction league 3-3, so I got pick up the extra 5 points for that. But I was really disappointed to see Wrexham lose that lead, and they're not a non-league football. I mean, if you look at that roster and what they're spending, that's a decent League 2 or lower League 1 team, probably, if at least 8 or 9 of those players. So they're a good side, but I don't think they've got a lot of shot at Sheffield United away. And quite frankly, that's a tough. I mean, that Sheffield. I mean, they're second in the table away in the FA Cup. That's not an easy match for Tottenham. I haven't looked at the calendar to see where it's going to fall and what's around us and what we might have to, in terms of rotation standpoint. I haven't really looked at that, but
I think we've got Chelsea on the Sunday before, Jack, and I guarantee you that will be a harder game than Preston. They have got more about them than Preston.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
no,
yeah.
Sheffield's looking at getting promoted. So, I mean, that's going to be a tough game. And if you got Chelsea on the weekend, obviously, then you're going to have to balance that lineup for those two games. But yeah, I'm a big Wrexham fan just because why not? I mean, it's easy for an American just to chime in and say, I'll root for Wrexham. Woo! But yeah, and it's also, I saw a lot of criticism of people saying, oh, well, Ryan Reynolds cares more about, Wrexham doing right for them than Levy ever did. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So, with $1.5 million, you can make an enormous impact on Wrexham. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little more complicated than running one of the richest clubs in the world. I'm not giving a pass to the guy. We'll get on to his transfer failings, I'm sure, before we get out of the show. But, I just thought those sorts of criticisms are typical Twitter, stuff that doesn't matter. Yeah,
but for me, the FA Cup still has that magic. I'm desperate to win the FA Cup.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to win it. There is no, I've got a friend who's a Man City fan, and not just a new Man City fan. We used to go to football years ago, to keep going, and he was going to watch Man City when they were in League 2, what it is now, and they won the playoff. And he still says to me, don't get me wrong, I'd love to win the Champions League, I would, but I want to win the Premier League and I want to win the FA Cup. And maybe that's just a bit old-fashioned, but we want to win the FA Cup because we don't win anything, do we? So it'd be great to win that.
I think this year's our best chance for the teams. Like someone put this today, they went before the draw, who do you want to get? And they were like, it doesn't matter, we're beating them all. You have to beat them all to win the cup. And I always say this in tennis. The year that Murray won was the year that Djokovic didn't play and Federer was injured. You want them to kind of beat each other. So with Friday, with City playing Arsenal and Brighton playing Liverpool, let them knock each other out. I'll happily play Wrexham and then whoever else. We don't need to play all the best teams. It's not about that. It doesn't matter. No one remembers that. So let them all knock each other out.
Yeah,
but I don't think we'll have a better chance in recent years. I know we got someone the other day. We got knocked out to Middlesbrough last year. So Middlesbrough away could be similar to the Sheffield United away.
Oh yeah, it will be. Yeah, that's what you're going to come up against. I've just got a little feeling. I think Conte will leave. I know I'm not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that discussion, but I think he will. But I could quite easily see him leading us to FA Cup glory, walking off into the sunset, done my job, won him a trophy. Fans are all happy, and we move on, and it just makes the process a little bit easier. But we'll come on to that another day. So, through in the FA Cup, a good draw. Now what we'll go on to now is we'll go on to a little bit more transfer stuff because big day tomorrow, transfer deadline day. I'm sure we're all having the day off work so we can sit and watch Sky Sports News all day. But now the first one we'll get on to, Bryan Hill's left. Bryan Hill's gone on loan to Sevilla. Only on loan. I don't think there's an obligated straight loan from Tottenham. There's no buy option clause included yet. So people are saying he should have been loaned to somebody in this country. We'll come to you first, Craig. What's your take on that? I'm not sure that Hills. I know he came in a bit and had a few games, but don't think he's Conte's man. Don't think he's his cup of tea, mate. So loan's probably best for him. I think he played him because he had to. Yeah,
I mean, I think there's a few things there. A couple of things. The first one about is he Conte's man? I think no, probably not on paper. He's not, but he certainly started to win him over. Certainly, Conte was making all the signs that he was impressed with what he was doing in training, and he had to keep taking his chances in training, which he seemed to be doing, and he wasn't getting minutes. The second bit about is the loan to Spain the right thing? We know he can do it in Spain. I didn't see a host of clubs in the Premier League or in the Championship lining up to take him. That's the reality of it. There wasn't many links, I think. So,
and I think this as well, Craig, John. Apparently, wanted to go back to Spain.
Absolutely, and he's homesick. He's loved by the Sevilla the fans. He's loved by he's loved over there. It suits his style of play. I think everything was just suited for him to go back. But in an ideal world, it would have been great to keep him in the Premier League or the Championship at loan. But like you say, there's not many clubs coming in for him, so he's done the only option.
Take what you can get.
Exactly, and it's best for him, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, what's your take on the Hill loan, Jack? Good for him.
Yeah. Oh, it's great for him because he gets to play football and he's back where in an environment he's comfortable in. I don't have any insight, but I will say it just seemed to me, based on, like Craig saying, the lack of links to English clubs, is that maybe he is the one who told everyone, I don't want to stay in England. And so the question is he ever really come back, or are we just going to be in a situation where we're just trying to find a home for him? The kid's got talent. Kid's got ability, and certainly just because he's a smaller stature does not mean he can't play in the Premier League. Plenty of people, Silva, all that sort of stuff, find their way to play in this league if you learn how to handle the ball, shield the ball, move the ball quickly. But he may not want to. So it's good that he gets out, gets some playing time. It's better than him sitting on the bench and not playing for us. Whether he ever comes back and plays a minute for Tottenham, I would say is questionable. At this point, I just feel like if you had told me it was going to take 2 players and 25 million to get Lamela out of Tottenham, I would have been really, really surprised if you had told me that. I would have thought you could have gotten him out for 15 million and no players, but to get him out for 2 players and 25 million, that's pretty expensive. But I saw a lot of that criticism coming through and on that deal. But it's unfortunate that he couldn't stick around, because I thought I liked him. I liked his energy on the pitch. But if he's not going to play for Conte, then there's no reason to keep him around.
I don't think it helps though. When his friend leaked that thing, was it on Thursday and Friday, saying that he didn't like it here and he wanted to go home and all that business? I don't think that necessarily helped him, but it meant it got done quicker and it was quite swift in the end. But yeah, like you just said then, I think it's very odd that they've managed to get Lamela, 21 million, and Hill.
Yeah.
That if we are Enic out, that's some very strange bargaining gone on there, really.
For me, Beck, like Craig made a good point earlier, Moura's come back into, obviously he played against Arsenal, proved his fitness a little bit. He's going to come back in now. I think personally, I'd rather let Moura go and kept Hill about, but I suppose Hill will want the minutes, won't he?
And he's got the experience, hasn't he? He's got the experience.
He has got the experience. But yeah, would you, out of those two, who would you have rather seen stay around? Moura or Hill? It's
a tricky one. I know I don't see them as like for like. When Moura comes on, I know last season, I think when Kulusevski was injured, I remember him playing on the right wing and he got hoiked off just after half time, I think. So when I often see Moura, he kind of plays further in the middle. He's a more physical player, isn't he, than Hill? I think Hill's always, as much as he's tried to become more physical, he isn't there yet. And, that's the bit that's always going to be the problem for him. I did think he was, there were games he came on and he did look stronger, but he isn't changing matches that, that we need him to do in like a Kulusevski kind of way. So, and if he's not happy, we're just not going to get anything out of him, are we? So it's just, like I said, it's all a bit odd, that we've lost Lamela and money as well.
Yeah. So like this, we can just go on to a slightly, we had a message started up earlier that there were talks about this last week, but I don't think we've actually have started, but I'll bring it up. With Hill going out on loan, we were after Zaniolo, didn't happen. He doesn't want to go to anyone else apparently, other than AC Milan or Spurs. So could we possibly see now Hill's gone a move for Zaniolo again? Jack, could you see that materialising?
I was going to say no, but I realized that a lot of things happened in the last 24 hours that you would not have predicted. And so I shouldn't say that. I would be very, very surprised if that move actually materialized. From what I can tell, it doesn't seem like he even wants to leave Italy. So I don't know that really would happen. I would be pretty shocked. But I'm not going to say that, having watched the guy for probably all of 30 minutes my whole life, I'm not saying that he would be a bad guy to have on the bench. To your point on Hill versus Moura, I would have to have Hill any day. I'm not a fan of Lucas Moura. It's nice that he's there, I guess, and he might be able to change a game every once in a while, but he's just not going to change a game where it really matters, in my opinion. Not at this point in his career. I just think he's got too many miles on him.
Yeah,
he's got too many miles on him.
He's only staying to the end of the season anyway, isn't he? Haven't they said that?
Yeah,
He's always coming in. He's staying. He's done. He can have a few, off the bench appearances, have his big goodbyes. I think that's fair enough.
I think Corner summed Moura up for me one day. He said he was busy. That hit the nail on the head with. What about you, Craig? You going Moura or Hill?
Hill all day long. I think for all the reasons that we've just said. You can't forget what he's done. He's done these achievements he's had for this club, and he's been a big player for us. And he's contributed. He's contributed. But it's one of those examples of where we hear it quite often that we don't sell players at the right time. We don't move players on at the right time.
Yeah,
I think he's probably an example of someone we should have moved on
2 years ago
when his stock was high. Yeah. That said, if we hadn't moved him on, it would have been a load of clamour about selling our best assets. So you can't win. But certainly I think him. Dele Alli, two examples come to immediately to mind where we should have sold sooner. Dier potentially. Yeah,
I think you bang on about Moura, mate. I don't think you'd have had that. I think 2 years ago, if we'd have done stuff like that more, I think then you would have got. We're selling at the right time. But
I think it goes back to that. Yeah, it goes back to that big club mentality thing. Sir Alex Ferguson at United was really good at selling players on in their prime, wasn't he? He was never afraid to move a player on in their prime. He knew when the time was for them to go, and he did it. And you know what? The fans trusted him impeccably. Didn't bat an eyelid because they knew there was someone else coming in who was going to be, develop just as good. And we just didn't do that. We hold on to our assets far too long. We did. I will say, to be fair, since the Paratici era, however long that lasts. Another show again is it has been there's signs of us moving and evolving away from that. We're making the losses on players now. We need to get out. We get rid of that dead wood a bit better. But that said, the reality is a lot of these players, there's not a market for them. They're on big wages at Tottenham. They love being at Tottenham, and the reality is they're going to stay with us until the end of their contracts, like Moura.
Well, I think that's
sorry, you carry on, Jack.
I think that's an excellent point because I can remember one time just for fun totaling up the squad value of peak Poch, and I said and I came up to the conclusion that you could argue that that starting 11 could have fetched almost $1 billion, and I'm not saying that we should have cashed in $1 billion on that team. No. That's not the point. But the one thing that I think is incredible. I mean, you can criticize the transfer in policy, and I think there's room for that. I think it's overdone because I think people think it's a lot easier to bring people to Spurs than it really is. And you could say whose fault is that? But anyway, but the inability to sell players has been horrific. I mean, you guys have named a few of the examples of not being willing to pull the trigger. In a previous show, I actually brought this up. In the American context, it was the New England Patriots. They had the best quarterback in the history of the game, and all they did is just basically give him another set of players every 3 or 4 years, and they sold high. And these players would go on to other teams on these huge contracts and never be heard from again. And they just knew when to hit the sell button, and that is a skill set that this club has never really mastered.
No, because you look at it like Pep talking about Pep's about to offload Cancelo. You know what I mean? And my friend was saying today, my City friend, he said he's been poor. He's been poor for a little while now. He's not quite doing what he's asked to do. The team's evolving a little bit. Off you go. And they'll probably get a good fee for him before he sits there and does nothing for ages. So, like you said.
He's fell out with Pep, hasn't he? I think he's fell out with Pep, and Pep said he wants to rid of him.
That's it. But they get rid of these players, don't they? They don't just let them rot. But anyway, we move on because another one before we sort of come on air.
Spence has landed, by the way. Yeah, he's landed.
Jed Spence. Apparently, he's chosen to go to Rennes, which I thought was strange. I thought he'd want to stay in the Premier League, but he's chosen to go and play for Rennes in France. Becky,
is that where Rodon is? Is
that
the same place as Rodon?
So. Yep.
Yeah. Shame that, Enic back. I mean, obviously he hadn't played. He wasn't going to play, so it was best for him to go out. But let's hope he goes. I don't think there's a buy option there either.
No.
I think
Are they the team that equalised against PSG yesterday, or am I getting my French red team?
Oh, I haven't got a clue, to be honest, Beck. I'll have a look. But yeah, what do you think to that move for Jed Spence, Beck?
I thought when I heard it was Brentford were coming in for him Palace, and there was Leicester rumours, weren't there? And it was saying there was no kind of like selling on thing. That he definitely had to come back. I thought, yeah, they're good kind of fast paced, exciting teams for him to kind of run up and down that wing on. And then, like I said, I haven't really been on Twitter that much this evening, but then I saw that he was going to Stade Rennes, and I was like, okay, Radon's there, but
no, they lost yesterday to Lorient.
It was Reims that tied PSG.
Getting confused.
Yeah,
so I don't know much about. I just know that Rodon plays there, and he's had a kind of an iffy start, didn't he? Honestly, I don't know. But if Conte doesn't want him, and people put in the chat here that Conte didn't want Gil either, and they've gone, and that if that's back in Conte, then from their point of view, they're doing what he's telling them to do. And then maybe they are on these loans. If he does go in the summer, they can bring them all back. We'll have a big party. So Winks will be back, and Lascelles will be back, and then Dombele will be back, and then we'll bring.
We'll have to go through all this again.
We'll go back like 8 years.
Yeah.
Again.
Craig, Jed Spence. Pointless talking about him being a club sign or anything, but you surprised he's heading off to the French league?
Yes, I'm not surprised he's leaving. I think that was inevitable. That was written in the stars from week one of the Premier League. To be honest, he was always going to go. I thought if you're going to go, I mean, you never know the ins and outs. I'm sure the club tried to place him into a Premier League team if they could, but the conditions have to be right for all sides, don't they? I keep saying that the condition is there's three people in the negotiation. There's us, there's the other club, and there's Spence. But if he's going to Rennes and he's going to play week in, week out, that's all that matters for me. Yeah. He's got to go and play. If he's going to go to Rennes and sit on the bench, but it's pointless. He can do that here or anywhere. But go there, go and play some football, enjoy some football, prove a point, and come back in the summer hungry and try and push for that place.
Yeah. I think we all sort of think that Spence needed to go. I think we all pretty much knew he would go. So yeah, I mean, he's chosen to go there. And then the next one I've seen, whilst we've been on air, apparently there's talk of Skipp going on loan. Now, I'm not sure if I've actually said it on the show. I'm sure I have, but I've definitely said it to Craig and said it through a few other people. I think if you could get another midfielder in, one that Conte maybe would trust more experience. I think it was when we were talking about Rabiot. I don't think that's going to happen now, but I said you could bring Rabiot in as part of that four. Because basically they'd sign him to a contract and they could make money on him if they were going to sell him, and then get Skipp out on loan. Skipp's a decent young player, and I think he's been injured. He's struggled with injuries. We could do with him going somewhere and getting a good run of games because that's what he needs. And he went to Norwich before. If he could go back to Norwich or even I don't know where he'd go in the Premier League, I think he needs those games, Jack. I mean, would you just prefer to keep hold of him because we got Sarr? And I think Sarr could be a better player, but Skipp definitely needs. I just think he needs a run of games.
I mean, I think that Skipp has been. Every manager that's been around Skipp has said unbelievably fantastic things about his abilities and his leadership. Right? That is beyond shout. That I don't think it's someone that you want to lose, especially as a homegrown, one of your own type of players. So I do think he needs games. So he's too young to not be playing. But at the same time, when there's only two spots for center midfielders, I would be okay giving him more rotation and giving, the two main horses a little bit more rest. But I don't see that happening, particularly given where we are on the table, what's in front of us. So if he trusts Sarr to take up the slack and give him the time that he's going to give those last 10 minutes of a game or the start against Sheffield or whatever, then fine. I would like to see Skipp playing, but I'd like to see him in the Premier League. I don't want to see. It doesn't need to go anywhere else other than Premier League. I'm disappointed about the Spence situation, and again, I don't know the inner details, but there was word that came out from the assistant coach Cellini that his lack of consistency in training was the reasons he couldn't find the bench even, and if he chose to go to France, that tells me that why would you not want to go to the highest level competition? I mean, no offense, but it's not France. So that worries me about the guy's mentality. If those are true, I'm just speculating. I'm just throwing it out there. That I'm worried a little bit about just a little bit of that evidence. I mean, I get these flashes of Tanguy a little bit in my head, so I that just worries me.
It kind of also stands that we've got like certain clubs that we deal with. So we just said there before, didn't we, that Gil's going to Villarreal where Lamela is, and then we were talking before about
Sevilla. He's gone to back.
Sevilla.
Yeah, sorry. And then Villarreal, we've got the Celso there, and then we've got Rodon and Spence have now gone to the same team. It's like it's Levy offended so many teams that we've only got about 5 teams that we can actually deal with now. What's going on?
Maybe.
But you make the point with Sarr not playing on Saturday. A lot of people were saying they thought Sarr was out. He was going because he wasn't playing. I think it was 2 games in a row, wasn't it? He wasn't in the squad. And then Skipp comes on, and then the next minute we're hearing Skipp is moving on. That's fine as long as Sarr is staying, because otherwise we're not going to have any players left. You've got Bissouma, Bentancur, and Hojbjerg. And I'm just reading the chat. Everyone's saying about Maddison. Maddison has apparently been seen in London.
I've been tipped a wink. I'm not going to say anything on this show. I don't want to start excitement, but somebody has said something about Maddison. But
yeah, I've heard the same thing. Just on Sarr, Gold, the ever reliable Alistair Gold's in an article today said he had an injury. Sarr. A little niggle, which is why he wasn't in the squad. So, maybe that's not true. I mean, I can't see Skipp going out on loan. I think it's unlikely. I think the only way he goes out on loan is if someone else comes in that same position.
Craig. If somebody else comes in, he may go on loan. But
wink.
the one team I did see Skipp linked with, which I think would be a good move for him. I know they're not top half of the table, but Bournemouth. Bournemouth try and play a bit of football, and I think that would be a good move for him. So, let's go round. What we saying? Skipp out on loan? Yes or no, Beck?
I'm going to say no, because I don't think Spurs have taken so long to get Porro sorted. I can't see us getting Maddison. I think someone would have heard about that, and it would be so no.
The mod drummer's getting all worked up here now, Craig. You shouldn't have said anything. Jack, Skipp. Loan, yes or no?
Not unless you're bringing someone in. I mean, if you're just looking at what's best for Spurs and not what's best for his career, then you say no. Now, because he's also a homegrown option, and I hate to bring it up, but the roster limits for the CL are an issue. So now, if you bring Maddison in, then that's great. But I would say no unless you're bringing somebody in.
So, Craig, last word. Skipp, yes or no?
I'm going to say yes, just because there's a homegrown player coming in to replace.
Possibly. Craig,
that's what we need, isn't it? That is the key thing. We need that.
Possibly,
if that happens, we need the
I've
homegrown player. We're going to have too many.
I've heard a rumor. I don't know how true it is, but I've heard a rumor.
Right then. So I think we've discussed all the outs. Let's talk about what we could. I mean, we may not do anything. Let's not get carried away. People in the chat don't get carried away. Can I just say,
before you say anything, Gibbo, sorry, just before you say on the Madders thing, because it's been talked about a lot in the chat, and you started that off, by the way, I can say for a fact that he had on his Instagram a picture of him, Vardy, the chairman, and the FA Cup. That's been taken down now, and he's only got a picture of him in his England kit.
Craig, stop it. No, stop.
That means he's going to Chelsea then. So is he going to Chelsea then?
Or Arsenal.
So, right, look, transfer deadline day tomorrow. Let's say Spurs are going to bring one more person in. And let's be realistic who we think that person could be, or who we might have heard somebody might be, or what we think. Becky, if we were to bring... So, Porro's happening. Dan Juma's in. The players the club need to get out on loan, they're going to get out on loan. There's a little picture with a mystery man with a question mark on it. Who would you like that question mark to be? Or do you think it could be?
It needs to be a centre-back. But if we're talking about the homegrown thing, then that needs to be Maguire. I don't know if I want Maguire and Dier playing next to each other. See? Although he'd be Dier's replacement, maybe, wouldn't he?
We have had, I'm sure we had earlier on, we had some comments about Maguire, didn't we? This is from Billy Price. He said he's new around here. how about Harry Maguire for 6-month loan deal until the end of the season? Surely that suits both parties. I'm with you, Becky. I would not want him playing next to Eric Dier, but instead of, I'll have some of that.
I really liked him in the Russia World Cup, and then he went and naffed off to United, and then I stopped liking him. I just think he's a bit, the whole fridge thing, and we're not upgrading. We're not upgrading, are we? But if it's a stopgap 6-month thing for the summer, and we are bringing somebody like one of the ones I've been bandied about, I've forgotten half the names. Is it Hakimi and people like that? I don't know. Then that's fine. Hincapié, yeah. His brother, his brother's supposed to have tweeted something yesterday. Oh, that's right. He liked Sonny's Instagram post.
Yeah.
And they were saying that it was Hincapie's brother.
Hincapie looks a player to me. He looks.
We need a defender. I think
like
we need
Romero.
a defender. If we keep Skipp and Sarr, and we've got Bentancur, Hojbjerg, Bissouma, we've got a midfield that Conte seems to like. We need a defender, and there isn't enough time to get anybody now. We can't get a foreign player because we need homegrown. So it looks like somebody like Maguire, but I don't know if that'll happen.
Craig, can you see a defender coming in, Craig?
I can see a defender coming in. Yeah. I'm just laughing at that message from Mod Drummer. Yeah, I can see a defender coming in. I just don't know who it will be.
And you talking about left centre back, centre back?
Yeah, left centre back. I think it's going to be, if there is someone out there that's available and meets the profile that we're looking for, I can see someone coming in to help out in defence. But I think it's unlikely.
Yeah. But what about you? What about you, Jack? Becky saying we need a defender, centre back. Yeah, can you see? Of course. Can you see us bringing a centre back in this transfer window, or do you think we will?
I don't see us getting the long-term replacement. I think that's a summer situation. It's just unlikely that we're going to see someone. But because the Hincapié or whatever his name is would be more likely a summer move. Same thing with all the other center backs that we've been linked with, however credibly. This thing on Maguire is interesting to me. I think that sorry, I just saw HG's message. I just saw the thing about Maguire is, at least when he's been at his best, is when he's got everything in front of him and he's camped out in his own box, right? He's not someone that is gonna, and I mean, with England, when you're playing the likes of Iran, I guess, and the Wales and the US, maybe he's not so bad because he's just not getting pressed that hard. I don't know. But if we're going to play, if we're going to be often on the back foot and letting us soak up pressure, to your point, if it's him rather than Dier, I don't think you've really lost much, and you've gotten a little deeper with a little bit more experience. I mean, would you rather have Maguire? Would you rather have, Sanchez backing up? And I think that's a fair question. I don't know that there's an obvious answer to that, but I can see a lot of people would say, no, I'll take Maguire over Sanchez, playing the center place, giving or being able to at least rotate Eric out so that he can just sit on the bench for a while.
Yeah, fair enough. Ashraf, I've seen Hincapié play on YouTube, mate. What I did was I watched some...
HD talks about him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That's the only reason I know he is, because HD
likes Ndika, who's also I think he's out of contract. But what I saw about Hincapié, I've not seen loads of him play, but the bits I saw, which obviously it's not the same as watching a full game, but I just got Romero vibes off him. Like, if you have Romero, he looks aggressive. He looks like he gets in on players, and that's what Romero does. And then if you can get him there, Romero there, and then they win the ball and drive up with it, and then you add someone a little bit calmer behind them, it could work.
Gibbo,
I don't know a lot about these people.
When we signed Ndombele, did you watch a compilation video and got all excited on YouTube?
I think I actually watched that game against Man City where he played. And I thought he looks really good. I actually did watch that game. And then after that, I obviously watched the compilations, and I thought, I never said he was a baller or anything. I just thought, with all the talk and the amount of money we were paying for him, I thought, we've got a player here, someone to replace Dembele, but he's not fit to lace up Dembele's jockstrap. So, but that's... But, it is what it is, isn't it, mate? But that's
People
what you
in
do.
the chat are talking about Sessegnon going, and I think Sessegnon will go in the summer. If
Oh,
it's
yeah.
late now, isn't it?
Yeah.
When
Go
Dodgy
either way.
comes in, Sessegnon
Yeah,
will go,
he's
and then
gotta go.
it'll be interesting if Perisic stays any longer. And if he
Yeah.
doesn't, then we'd need somebody else, wouldn't we?
Well, he came on a 2-year deal. So my thought process is it's
Oh, I thought he only
Perisic.
came on a 1-year deal.
No, it's a 2-year deal.
Okay.
Maybe I'm
So
wrong,
yeah,
but I'm pretty sure it's a 2-year
Sessegnon will
deal.
go in the
So
summer. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then you bring
definitely.
Doggy in and lets Perisic mentor him for a season, and I think
Yeah.
it's ideal.
I've got a feeling that and Doggy might not need any mentoring. I think he strikes me as the type of person who's just going to come in and just hack it up, hopefully. But yeah, obviously the mental side of it, that'd be great. But so Jack, we'll come to you. Becky's picked a centre back. We're going to get a player in tomorrow. What would your there's that little thing saying Spurs assigned someone, little question mark by it. What position and who do you think we could be getting in that position?
Well, we know that the people starting at center and left center back are not good enough.
Yeah.
So, but we do have two players, even if you don't like them that much, we do have 2 people who can play left center back. So that obviously for me targets the center back, this middle center back piece.
Yeah.
And the only player who really I could imagine and I don't think it's a winner signing, but De Vrij could be that player. People keep talking about the guy on the right of him, but he never plays in the center. He's never played in the center. So I think De Vrij would be a legitimate person to put in that center back spot instead of Eric. I honestly don't know how much of an upgrade it is because I can't claim to have watched him tons. I just read what other people have written about him, and it would be an upgrade. Is he still good enough for you to have a title challenge as your starting middle center back? It's open debate, but he certainly, I think, would be an upgrade on Eric. Be certain.
Okay, that's fair enough. Craig, I'm coming to you, and I don't want you to get everybody in the chat excited, but like I said, there's that player blacked out with a question mark on him. Who would you like? What position would you like to see that player, and who do you possibly think it could be, or you'd like to see?
Okay, so I think I would like it to be a midfielder.
Creative or box
creative
to box?
midfielder. I think we need a creative midfielder.
Yeah.
Someone that can come in and break the lines and get us going on the front foot. It has to be homegrown just for the balance.
Yeah. Any names?
Well, I don't know. I just think we need someone that's potentially coming to end as a contract, maybe.
Yeah.
Not
good thinking because we like that.
He's not injury prone, is he? He's not someone who's injury prone.
Maybe. I think we need someone as well that a club's maybe a bit short of cash. Needs to cash in. Maybe a juicy little 30 million.
Give us a name then, Craig. Come on.
I don't know. I don't know.
Who fits that description?
It sounds like a Madison type signing to me. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about Madison. So Craig, the scenario tomorrow, transfer deadline day, it's getting towards the end, and then halfwits on Sky come on, and they're like, "We got news from the Hotspur way. Spurs have just agreed a fee with James Maddison for however much it's going to be." Would you be happy with that?
Of course I would be happy with that. And the fact I live in Leicester, it would boil some piss. And I love it.
Yeah. Becky, Maddison to Spurs. Would you be having that? Do you think he fits in? Do you think we really need him?
Well, we need midfielders. We need free kick takers. We need people that can kind of, take the ball and be progressive. I just think he's one of those players that has a massive England tax on him.
Yeah.
Whether there's that side of it. Again, Gov put in the comments quite a bit earlier on that Sky, I don't know if this is true, Sky asked people to hold signings back so that they can kind of drag it out. Well, we've given them about 30 days worth of nonsense. So if we are, just get on with it. I don't know. I would have just thought if things had been done. He said that signings have been done and they asked them to hold them out.
Unhappy Leicester fan in the chat here.
The only pictures I've seen of him is when he's standing on a holiday with Delhi, and the two of them look like right planks.
Yeah, they look like my son. I told you that before, didn't I, Becky?
Yeah, that's the only thing I've seen of him. Obviously, I've seen him when he's played at Spurs. Did he score this season? Because Tielemans missed that penalty, didn't they?
No, he scored both of them. Madison did score just before half time.
I thought he did. That's right. I remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he would be a great sign, and I don't know whether we'd get if it's taken us, this long to get Porro with that kind of, I just don't know if we'd be paying him out of money. But yeah, Rowan's just said about Smudge. He's gone a bit nuts. I can see him behind me. He's like playing with the flags. Bless him. That's Smudge.
What do you think, Jack? Because our sources are no, I'm not going to. No, you tell me what you think. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think we need to belabor. For me, obviously, Maddison's an upgrade on a number of options you have across the attacking front. I mean, he brings you, to Becky's point, somebody actually hit a free kick, which we haven't had in 5 years.
Yeah.
And so that alone, but again, it's a plug and play. He walks into the lineup. Not I'm saying necessarily a starting lineup, but he walks into the squad, and there's no getting used to anything. He knows the league, he knows the players, he knows our players. He plays with half of them on the England squad. It would be a seamless integration, I would think, to the squad, especially if you're looking past the current manager. I think that would be a no-brainer.
Yeah. And I think the fact that Craig said he's changed his Twitter or Instagram profile to him in his England kit points to the fact that he's looking for a move to a bigger Champions League club in this transfer window. So
Arsenal then.
Oh, don't tell me. Well,
yeah.
I think
they need midfielders. All I've read all day long is midfielders that they're going in for, because they may be worrying about one of theirs.
Jorginho, I think, Becky, I think they wanted Caicedo, but I think it's going to be Jorginho. But I've just been looking, and on the socials now, they're basically saying that Tottenham are considering a move for a centre-back on deadline day. I mean, we're going to have loads of that tomorrow, but Japhet Tanganga's interest from Inter Milan.
To be fair to Paul O'Keefe, Paul O'Keefe said ages ago that Spurs were going to get an attacker, a right wing-back, and I think he said a midfielder. And so far, two of those are correct, and he does tend to know what's going on. So maybe we are having Maddison.
Yeah,
wow, he's going to Newcastle. Forgot about them.
I'd love to say Maddison would definitely, we could get him, but I just think you look at it now, you're not going to get him on loan and then pay for him at the end of the season. I think that's the sort of one that you probably would start the ball rolling at the start of January. But yeah, that he would be a good signing. I'm not sure we'll bring anyone else in.
What would you guys say? I'm not saying he's linked. I'm just saying a homegrown player that could take a free kick. Would you guys take Ward-Prowse?
I wouldn't. I think he is a brilliant free kick taker, brilliant. But I don't think the rest of his play is that good. I don't think he's as good as people make out. And the money you'd have to pay for him, I don't think he's worth the money you'd have to pay for him. But his free kicks he's at an elite level.
Well, Jack's got a point there. This is the thing we're saying about Leicester, and I keep thinking about that. Everton players, they're struggling, aren't they? And from the players' point of view, they're going to be like, I need to, sort what's going out if we go down. Somebody put Gay, the Palace defender Gay, in the comments. His name gets mentioned quite a bit.
I think you're looking at big money, though. What I think,
but you have to pay that for defenders. Otherwise, we get people like Longley, and I quite like Longley, by the way. But if we get if the system we play is so reliant on good defenders, we need to pay for good defenders.
I don't think we're paying that money tomorrow, though, Beck. I think we will in the summer, and it's like Porro's a big money deal, but we've been chasing that. And if we'd have had a player lined up the same, I think we would. But I don't think tomorrow we splash out another 50 mil tomorrow. I think if it's someone like that, Hincapie they've been talking about, who's sort of like 30, 40 million or whatever, but you can get him on loan and then you can pay in the summer and get him on the contract. I think a deal like that could happen, but I think anything big now, it's a little bit too late to get anything. But saying that, Arsenal, if somebody signs Caicedo, Chelsea are throwing money about, so there's no reason why we couldn't. I just don't think we will. But so Craig, in your mind though, let's be honest, do you think after Porro the transfer's wrapped up? He's on the plane now.
Aeroplane. Yeah, that's him on an aeroplane.
Leaving on a jet plane, Porro is.
Very big.
Who's tweeted that, Becky?
I'm not sure, but it's been sent to me from someone sensible, so it would have gone.
Craig, are we done? Are we done for transfer debt for the transfer window, or do you think there's going to be one more up the sleeve?
Yeah, I think we're done. I think we're done. I think there's always that you never know, do you? Thing. We love a deadline day deal at Tottenham and everything else, but I think realistically, I think we're done. I think Porro, and that'll be it. More likely to see an outgoing or two, and if we do see an incoming, it will be a development player. I think we've been linked with that Jude, haven't we, Guy? Which will come into the under 21s. Yeah. So I think as much as I would love to see Maddison sign and a centre half sign and everything else, I think we finished cooking.
Okay, Jack, are we done, or we got one more?
Well, I'm hoping that there will be one or two stories leaked that we've made some huge, ridiculous Dybala type of offer at the last second just to piss off Dave and some of our friends.
Come on.
Just, because they're always saying, oh, yeah, we always have these late moves to appease the fan base. Oh, we just couldn't get it over the line in time. And so I'm really hoping for some of that, because that'll just send a lot of people over the edge. I think that would be great. And it'd entertain Craig too. So I'm really here for making sure that he's entertained tomorrow.
Yeah. And will that stop the 22-minute walkout at the City game that they're planning? I saw someone reply to that today. He went 65 quid to walk out after 22 minutes. You're having a laugh.
Just walk down to if you're going to walk down to the concourse and buy a beer. But Beck, are we done for transfer deadline for the transfer window? Do you think, or
I don't know.
Levy got one more up his sleeve? What are you thinking? Come on.
I like, as people know me, I like things organised and ordered and ready. And Spurs don't do that, and it's really infuriating. So I have no idea. I would like things sorted out ages ago, like I said, but who knows?
Don't you want a Van der Vaart?
If we get a Van der Vaart, brilliant. But I'm not holding out much hope. Levy's been very busy all day in Portugal, hasn't he? So he hasn't been doing much else, unless Paratici's been doing it all. I don't know. I will wait and see.
No. So I think we've had a good chat tonight, guys. We've got 251 people watching now. I think people have hit the likes. Everybody's been fantastic tonight. So thanks for watching. Great numbers, great chat. I've tried to get as many of the questions up as we can. Me and Craig have been trying, but it was when you get talking, you sometimes forget. But Beck, I'm not sure if you're back on this week. Obviously, I think depending what happens, we may do a show towards the end of the window tomorrow. We're on Wednesday. We got the preview Man City show Friday. I should imagine you'll be at the game on Sunday, Becky. So you're back on next Monday, are you?
Yep, I'll be there on Monday.
Yeah. So Becky,
thanks for having me on. Great chat.
No,
and
brilliant.
Great stuff Becky in the comments as well. Loads of different names as well. People I like, new people and different names I've not seen. That's really great. Welcome along. We're here.
Everybody who's come in tonight who's new, if you tell somebody else and they tell somebody else, let's get the numbers up. Let's get the chat going. We'll get better at getting your questions up here. We don't tend to do 3 or 4 hours, but we do. We're open. It's quality over quantity. But Jack, thanks for dropping in, mate. I know you were a bit worried about work and stuff, but I hope you've enjoyed the chat, mate. I know you stay off Twitter and stuff like that as much as you can. I was probably on Twitter today more. Yeah, I was probably on Twitter today more than I have in the last 6 months. So I'll be honest with you. I didn't completely ignore it because I was intrigued too with the massive meltdown. Craig, you're right. It was a little bit of amusing. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I look forward to being with you guys sometime in the near future. Yeah, of course you will. And Craig, I'm sure you'll be back on. I think we're on Wednesday, aren't we, mate? Talking about how basically going about over all the stuff we've been over today, but hopefully a few new names and maybe a couple of big surprises. So thanks for coming on, mate. No problem at all. I'm going to spend the rest of the evening tracking Porro's plane. I've just found it. Have you? Is it on that Santa tracker app? That's the same one. You just put different, yeah. I've got NORAD on it now for me. All right. Yeah. Cool. So all I'll say is, everybody, thanks for watching again. Hit the like if you haven't done it already, but we've had loads at the likes. Subscribe to the channel if you want to, and then you'll get the notifications of when we're on. But apart from that, all I want to say is, come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Spurs.